Waste another day, eyes on my display. You say we need a change, and I feel that you.
Hey, girlfriend.
Hey, Sandy, how's it going?
Good. Have you moved back to New York yet?
I'm still snowbirding, girl.
You got a plane ticket?
I don't know if I'm gonna book one. We'll see sometime soon.
You got a date?
I'm always gonna be a New Yorker, though.
Always
Coffee.
and forever. Always and forever.
Well, I know that we are back with Pinot and Flo, but today I wasn't feeling Pinot. I needed some Johnny Walker Black Label. Don't judge me.
I went for something stronger too. It's a little kettle.
Well, cheers to you.
Kettle Botanical. Cheers.
So, you know the deal. You know how we flow. Today, I'm excited to hear what we're going to talk about because last time you shared some gems. I was taking notes, dropped some nuggets on me.
I realized we got a little intimate, which I love because we do it in private, but we don't share enough of ourselves, I think, with the world.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely just a need for more critical conversations that are transparent. So I appreciate you, sis, for being transparent.
I appreciate you also. I try to remind you often that I appreciate you. And I also know it's part of your love language, and you need the affirmation. So I try to give you that affirmation because I want you to feel loved. And as my girlfriend, actually as my sister friend, I want you to feel loved. And it's important for me that you feel loved.
Well, I receive it. Give me all the love, all of it. So we only have a couple minutes. So I want you to tell me the topics. I wrote down my list of everything that we have on my list for us to consider as a topic today. But I need your list too. And our lists are surprises for each other. So you kick off with your list first, and then I'll kick off with my list, and then we'll vote on which 5 topics we'll discuss.
All right, got it. All right. So I'll give you my top 3 and I'll surprise you with my last 2.
Oh, shoot. You're making it hard. Okay, go for it.
Right. Okay, so the first one, this is real time, right? So weight loss during COVID, question mark.
Ooh,
how about question mark, exclamation marks there, right? And then because this is Pinot and Flo, and we want for people to Pinot and Flo with us, I want to know white or red and why. And then because I am looking forward and I'm hoping that we're at the tail end of this pandemic. So I want to know, where are we going after this pandemic?
Okay. Where are we going? Okay. Yeah. Vaccinations are coming along. I'm excited about that. My mom actually just got vaccinated. So, all right. Well, here's what's on my list. I have managing difficult conversations / people.
Chile.
I'm just going there. I have grief. I have foundation, boundaries, my favorite topic. And then I have the best part of being a woman / your feminine energy. So those are my 5. Now, what are your surprise 2 so we can vote?
Okay. 1 is kind of similar to your last one, is women or girl crushes, because we are approaching Women's History Month. Not that I want to let y'all know what time period it is right now, but women and girl crushes. And what is one thing you've been doing for yourself lately?
Okay.
So self-love and doing for yourself.
All right. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. So what are your votes? Give me your top 3 and I'll fill in with the last 2.
Okay. So I love how you summarize yours in words. I like grief. I think it's important to talk about that right now because we're experiencing it and should be addressing it in several different ways based on several different things. Ooh, boundaries, that's a good one. We need more time. So being selfish, I'm going to say let's hold off on that one.
Okay.
And how did you frame your last one?
the best part of being a woman / your feminine energy.
I love that.
Okay, so we have grief and feminine energy. I need one more from you, and then I'll pick the last two.
Okay. Let's talk about, okay, so that last one is a combination of both of ours. Boundaries.
Okay, boundaries it is. So then the two that I would pick would be weight loss during COVID.
Yes.
And white or red, and why? So that being said, you know the deal. We have limited time to discuss each topic. We have to share the floor. So I'm going to start a timer, a stopwatch, and we'll have just a couple minutes for each topic. And the first one we're going to kick it off with is grief. It is time to go. Pinot, flow. Get it started, Sandy. What comes to mind when you think about grief?
Okay, so we mentioned that we talk amongst ourselves about a lot of things that we don't necessarily bring to the public. And I want to talk about how you grieve and mourn, and should grieve and mourn the end of things, right? But we usually associate grief and mourning with the death of someone. But what about the death of living relationships? Yeah. And I associated grief and mourning with the end of my marriage. It was important to me to grieve and to mourn the death of what I thought will be and the future that I thought I would have, not because we were both dead, maybe to each other, but not even in a bad way, but just to give an end to that time period and to allow myself to move forward. And I learned that, and I had that awareness because I realized that I was in a long-term relationship before that. So I was in a 6-year relationship with my college boyfriend, and I didn't grieve and mourn the end of that relationship, and it carried on. And this is extra personal, but it was important for me when I realized the marriage was ending to give that relationship an ending, so that I wasn't continuing to breathe life into something that was no longer.
Wow. Wow.
That was personal, very personal.
It is, but it's very powerful. And this is another area where I find that our connection just happened for me at the right moment in my life, because I really started to think about grief at the end of my marriage too. I was in a space where everything that I saw as the direction of my life, where it was going, it collapsed, and it was almost like being hit by a truck. And I had to reimagine what life would be. So actually, this is an interesting topic for me, because I've been thinking about seasons a lot as I escaped winter. Miami's just one long summer. But I really value seasons, and this is something I say over and over again. A lot of times we tend to think, when you're sad, people say, don't be sad, or don't grieve, or it'll get better. And I realized in my process that I needed to grieve. I needed to cry it out. I needed to not show up when I couldn't show up. And, we need space for both things. Just like in life, there's seasons of hardship, and there's seasons of beauty. And sometimes those seasons coincide as well. So I think it was a really interesting time for me to be experiencing a season of loss personally, but professionally, that's when my business really started to take off, and how to navigate feeling so sad in one area of my life, and in another area wanting to celebrate, and just really having to compartmentalize so I could show up. So, I would just say with grief, I think about often we need it. We need to give ourselves that time to grieve when we're experiencing loss of all sorts. And to your point, it's not just about people passing on from the earth, but sometimes it's people passing on from our lives.
Amen to that.
Well, that is exactly the amount of time we have for that topic. We have to come back to that one because I think there's so much there.
Well, can we just cheers to that since we are Pinot and flowing without Pinot?
Yeah, we used to do in my, growing up, you pour a little out, for for the ancestors, for whoever, for the lost relationship.
Take the girl out of Brooklyn.
I'm in my house, so I'm not gonna pour nothing out, but
I will not be pouring anything on this carpet.
But an imaginary pouring out a cheers to moving forward and seasons and grief.
Love that. Okay,
so I'm starting the clock over for the next topic, which I'm so excited to hear your thoughts about this because one of the things I love about you is you are so put together, so elegant, so fierce, yes, so just in touch with every part of what I aspire to be when I think about owning all of my feminine energy. So that's something that really draws me into you. It's very magnetic and attractive. So I want to hear from you kind of what is your best part? What's the best part of being a woman for you? How do you embrace your feminine energy?
Oh, first of all, can I just share again that I appreciate you because I would have to say the same for you. And this is not a love fest for one another, but
it can be.
It can be. But I definitely appreciate that about you as well. You show up as a whole woman. And I love that. And I also tend to gravitate towards women naturally. I'm very biased of me towards very feminine women as well, who are very confident in their femininity. I noticed that about myself, but I would have to take it back to my mom. So if you don't know, but I'm Latina, 1,000% Latina. But of course, if follow the slave journey, we came from San Vincent via West Africa, but my mom is indigenous, my father is Afro-Honduran, and we're from Honduras. So my first language was Spanish, I'm Latina. And there is something sexy about the Latin women. And we embrace it.
And Black women too.
And hello, look at me, I'm Black. Yes. Okay, so my mom would say, I would watch her putting herself together to go to bed. And my sister and I would make fun of her. And she would say, well, if there is a fire, I want to be ready when I have to step outside. So what I love, something I'm so mindful of, especially during this pandemic season, is going to bed sexy. Like it's not for anyone, right? But it's for you. So I invested in lounge garment and bedtime garment because we're not showing up on camera. It's for you. You want to go to bed feeling good about yourself. And it's one of those small things you can do, just like shaving your legs. I know we're going through the laser process, probably TMI. But it's one of those things you can do for you when no one's watching, when no one's receiving it. But that is one thing, whether you have a partner that you go to bed with every night, you can put on something sexy and feel good about yourself when you're ending the day.
So you always trigger my thoughts in a really different direction than I thought I was going to go. I was going to talk about doing pageants and going to all girls school. But when you talk about even just buying the garments for you, and it kind of relates to what you said, how do you love on you? That was also a big shift for me is I wanted to feel sexy for myself and own all parts of what makes me a full woman for myself. And so that did involve buying some robes, some nice robes to wear around the house, not just lounging with pants, thinking about, for me, even taking care of my skin is a part of my sexiness routine, making sure my hair is done, all of that. I feel like we always go back to our moms, but I think about how my mom used to say, when you're not feeling your best, show up as your best, and it changes your mood. And so that was one thing that I always focus on, is making sure no matter what's going on the inside, taking care of the outside, the two work together. And I do have to pay attention to how I show up because it improves my energy. You get those compliments, you feed off that energy.
Right.
And we're almost at time, but the last thing I would say about embracing my feminine energy and the best part of being a woman is I've really learned to look at all elements of who I am as part of what makes me amazing, right? So who I am as a leader, who I am as a business person, not separating that out, but looking at what I bring to the table as a woman as something that adds to that picture. So I have been socialized, you know, maybe I don't agree with all of it, but to be nice, but to ask for permission, but to be modest. And some of those things, I don't know. Hopefully I can change and shift some of how future women and future girls are socialized so that they're not taking that on. But for me, what it has done is it's made me compassionate. It's made me have humility in my leadership style. And those things have made me uniquely me. And I'm grateful for that.
Right. Gratitude. And I know that we're out of time. But finding reasons and things you can do for yourself. Another one, I'm just going to plug this one in there. Like wearing great underwear. Like before you put on your nice clothes, make sure your undergarments are beautiful too. In middle school, I read this book and they talked about somebody's raggedy underwear, how sometimes people show up really well.
That was a middle school book.
I know.
Where'd you go to middle school?
In Harlem.
Wait a minute. Okay, go ahead. Tell me about your raggedy underwear.
Not mine. It was in the book.
Okay, not yours, not yours. She said, look,
it was a topic of discussion. And the book was a lot deeper than this, but I'm summarizing what I remember from the book. But it was about somebody wearing raggedy underwear, how sometimes people show up well put together, but the inside or what's underneath there is like not put together. So I don't know why these are the things that stick with me or why this necessarily stuck with me from middle school, but make sure what you're putting on underneath, everything that you're showing up as is put together. Even if it's like, I love a good pair of underwear. So make sure your underwear are fly to whether anyone's going to see them or not.
Yeah, and just one thing I do have to say, okay, I know we have to move on from this topic. When it comes to being a woman and feminine energy, I would just like to say all humans can embody that, right? So men can embrace their feminine energy, and that's a beautiful thing. All people can, and I think that there's just something really beautiful about that. So I look at, I would say I combine the two, but as I'm thinking about it more deeply, I think about my role as a woman and my feminine energy as two separate things, and there's beauty in both of them. So just had to say that. Are you ready, girl, for the next topic? Because this is one that you said we may not even have enough time for. Can you handle it? Boundaries.
Girl.
Okay, so I'll kick this off because I made you start the other two.
You sure did.
I'm resetting the clock, just 4 minutes to talk about boundaries. Let me, so, you know, I think about boundaries a lot. I've had to learn them. I keep relearning boundaries and how to set boundaries for myself every year and season of my life. I will say, in grieving, I had to implement my boundaries more than I ever had previously. But also, boundaries can be, at the base of it, it can be something that has a negative connotation, but it's actually really beautiful because it allows me to live fully and thrive fully because I am giving my energy exactly how I want it to be manifested in this world. There are things that I don't always want to talk about with every audience. And in setting those boundaries, I'm creating safe spaces for myself so that when I do want to have certain conversations or engage in certain behaviors, I can show up fully in all of those spaces. So I would just say, I think about boundaries more and more as a positive thing and try to remove all of that negative connotation from it. I think about having a healthy life for myself and being able to be the best leader I can be, the best sister, friend, partner I can be, boundaries is critical to that. So that's what comes to mind when I think about boundaries.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. And I would say, for me, boundaries mean structure, and it means sanity. I, as I'm sure you are juggling 1,000 things, from the work bucket to the self bucket to the family bucket, everything, right? Trying to feel like a human. So for me, it means structure. And I'm still working on, it's a work in progress, being okay, not being able to do all of it. There are things that I want to do, but it's not priority at the moment. So even being honest with myself about what I can and cannot do. And what I would say in this season, what boundaries mean to me and how it's playing out in my life is me being honest with my own boundaries to myself. Don't spill into your time. Don't steal from sleep. Don't steal from the gym. Don't steal from your diet. Because if you're not structured with yourself and if you're not honest with yourself, then other people can spill into your own boundaries that you kind of set, but you don't keep for yourself.
Yeah.
So if we're loose with our own boundaries, how can we really hold tight and steadfast to boundaries we set for the outside world?
I love that. You know, I had this conversation with a makeup artist who was doing my makeup once, and she was sharing some tips and tricks with me along the way. And I said, you know, I really want to learn some of these things, but I cannot be great at everything. I just can't. I don't have the capacity. I want to be great at my craft, at my products, at the services I provide. I want to be a great partner, a great friend. I'm not going to be able to learn how to do everything well. So part of boundary setting is also picking the areas that you determine with the limited time and capacity we have on this earth, where are you going to show up best? So I think that's critical.
And what makes sense, right? And what's most important at the time, because that level of importance and priority can shift 2 months from now. But in order for me to be where I need to be in 12 months, I need to prioritize this right now. And I can't cancel and be loose with me.
Touche. Well, speaking of boundaries, I have to close you out on this topic. One time, I'm setting a boundary. And I want you to talk to me a little bit about the topic you brought up, which was weight loss during COVID. Can I start this one?
Yes, please, because I need tips. That's why I brought it up.
Well, okay, I can give you some tips, but here's one thing I will say, just because I don't, talk about it often, but I've struggled sometimes with my weight. I used to do pageants. I grew up in a family where obesity was a big issue, and I was a smaller person in my family by far. And I definitely had moments in my life where I had obsession over my weight. In some ways, doing pageants gave me confidence because there was so much diversity in the body types of the women who competed. But in other ways, for me to feel like a winner, I was extreme in what was required for me to lose weight. And after I hit 30, I will tell you, your metabolism is different. And I got hips. I never had hips in my life. I even got, maybe a little booty. I got some curves that never.
I'm still asking for more. Hello.
I got some curves that I never expected. So I do want to get more toned. That is one of the goals for me as I approach my upcoming birthday. But I also feel like I have to love on me at any size I am. Now, I will say, as much as I love Pinot and flowing, the drinking don't help. So that is something that I think about often. And it's that balance between trying to enjoy your life and love exactly where you are, but then also making space and room for improvement, because we can all be better and have a healthier lifestyle. So that's all I got.
Right. All of that plus COVID has been an entire challenge. Actually, turning 30 and my metabolism slowing down, me running a business that I want to grow and getting busier is a challenge. As I get older, I feel like my palate is also desiring good food. In my 20s, I would sacrifice food, I would call it, especially in my 20s.
We can afford better food now.
Right, exactly. Like, no, miss me with the bad food. I want good food. I want it to taste real good. So that's my challenge. I want food that tastes great, but also what I'm struggling with as a former athlete, I ran track for a long time and I could work out and eat whatever I wanted. That can't happen anymore. And then just all the things, right? So I have more weight on me than I've ever had in my life. And even to this point. And it's hard when your frame is kind of small. So people are like, what? You're fine. And I'm like, actually, no, I'm actually not really fine at all. My clothes don't fit. So also knowing who you can talk to about what your weight struggles are, because we may have them, but you also may feel like you can't really talk about that with anyone because everyone's journey is very different. The other thing that I've started to do over the last 2 weeks, which I admire that you do, is get dressed. So I get up, I've been getting up at 7 a.m. and I get dressed in the morning, and not just from the top up, but I have on actual pants because I realized my bottoms weren't fitting. And I am fooling myself if I think I'm gonna come out this pandemic and all of a sudden my bottoms will fit me. So I've started to actually do that for me, is get dressed. And I've also started working out with my trainer again because the struggle with weight loss just impacts everything.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, how we feel about ourselves is so important. But the one thing I will say, yes, if we want to make healthier choices, but love on you. It sounds so cliche, love on your curves. I actually had to embrace, because again, there were times where my obsession with my weight, I know wasn't healthy. So I do have to embrace looking in the mirror and saying nice things to myself, loving on myself. And the only other thing I will say, because during my process of grief and in the divorce, I did gain 50 pounds. I've lost some of that weight, but I gained a lot. I went up a couple of dress sizes, and I realized that part of what was making me feel so miserable is I was buying clothes or wearing my old clothes that didn't fit. And let me tell you something, go with the bigger size always, okay? Because wearing clothes that fit you well, make you feel good, increases your confidence. And if you do gain a couple pounds, it's life will go on, but just make sure your clothes fit. Something that did help me with that was Rent the Runway. So I didn't have to buy a whole new wardrobe. I could just rent different sizes. So I still was able to show up looking good and feeling good. So get the better, listen to your older sis or your younger sis. I don't know how old you are, but listen to me, get the bigger size.
Yes, and Rent the Runway is a great resource for that as well, because you don't want to buy the clothes that's a size up. You just want it temporarily because it's a temporary thing. So don't make it a permanent fix.
So we have 1 minute left, and with our last minute, that's all we really need for this question. Since we talked about Pinot and Flo, is it Pinot Noir for you, Pinot Grigio, red or white, and why?
It is white, and it is a Sauvignon Blanc. That's my
okay. I really do love Brown Estate Sauvignon Blanc. That's probably my favorite that I've had so far. For me, it's red. I love Pinot Noirs. I actually love Oregon Pinot Noirs. And I would say part of it, as I'm getting older, I'm learning more about wine and enjoying that process. But I really started being introduced to wine with reds, and I just love the fullness of a red wine. It warms me up when I'm feeling cold. Dinners feel more complete. I like savory foods. Goes great with that. So I'm always on my Pinot Noir.
Yes, red is definitely good for winter. I like a crispy white wine though.
Okay. Well, I'll have to bring you some or get you some for our next conversation. But I, as always, enjoy your vulnerability. I enjoy your transparency. And we have some topics to talk about next time. So get it together. Be ready to get deep with us.
Let's do it. All right. See you next time.
All right.
Cheers.
I'll talk to you soon. Cheers to
Yeah.
you.
Cheers.